Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining today's webinar. My name is Chung, Vice President of the Singapore Business Group. The webinar today is organized and presented by Singapore Business Group and Fraser's Property and RSM. The topic today, which is certainly a hot one, Vietnam Industrial Development Outlook and Tax Incentives for Foreign Investors. And we're absolutely pleased to have Mr. Chong Chi Keong and Mr. Lei Kan Lam to join us this morning. Next slide, please. So this will be the agenda for today. I'll do some quick intros and then the two topic proper. So one is the Vietnam Industrial Development Outlook amidst COVID-19. And the second one will be tax incentives for foreign investors amidst COVID-19. There will be a Q&A session after this, and I do believe that some questions have come in. Please be assured too that no recording and slides will be provided and made accessible after this webinar. Next slide, please. So the Singapore Business Group started as a non-profit organization around 1992 by a small group of Singaporeans working and living here. Since then, it has evolved from a membership of about 30 individuals into a business group with membership strength for about 350 members as it is growing. Our mission is to actively foster business relations with other business communities while promoting social, cultural, recreational, educational, and charitable activities. Next slide. I'd like to introduce at this point Mr. Chong Chi Keong, General Manager, Industrial of Fraser's Property, Vietnam. So Chi Keong is the General Manager, and Fraser's Property is a multinational property company headquartered in Singapore. It develops, owns, and manages a diverse and integrated portfolio of companies ranging from residential, retail, commercial, business park, industrial, and logistics, Southeast Asia, and Australia, Europe, and China. In Vietnam, I'm sure a lot of you would know Mainland Point in District 1, as well as Q2 in Thao Dien, a luxury mixed-use development in District 2. So besides Fraser's Properties hospitality business, it also has Fraser's Suites in Hanoi and Capri by Fraser in Ho Chi Minh City. Chi Keong has more than 20 years of valuable insights from owner's perspective, having worked with leading consultants and developers in Southeast Asia. Prior to joining Fraser's Property, he was with CFLD International, and before that with Sembcorp as a general manager for industrial park projects in Vietnam and Indonesia. Okay, next slide, please. I'm also pleased to introduce Mr. Lam, Senior Partner of RSM Vietnam. So Mr. Lam has nearly 30 years of experience working with multinational corporations and Vietnam clientele in all business sectors. So he specializes in providing clients in inbound investment, M&A advisory, certainly local tax advice, custom duty review, and other compliant issues relating to inbound investment. Prior to joining RSM Vietnam, where he's been for 18 years, Mr. Lam has been with one of the big four in Vietnam, Malaysia, and Australia for 12 years. Again, advising many MNCs on the investment structuring, entry strategies, tax planning, foreign investment regulations. In particular, Mr. Lam is currently in charge of RSM Vietnam's tax and consulting practice, providing local tax and customs compliance, outsourcing and advisory services to foreign investors coming into Vietnam. Next slide. Before I hand over to Chi Keong, I just have a few more thank yous to give. So I do want to thank our SBG corporate sponsors, Capital Land and UOB, VSIP, Fraser's Property, KPMG, and the Phu My Tree Specialized Industrial Park. I also like to quickly name the 9 co-hosting chambers and thank you for your participation, that being OzCham, BritCham, CanCham, CTCBN, HKBAV, iCham, InCham, MBC, and TBA. Okay, I think with that, I'll hand the mic, so to speak, to Chi Kyong to take us through his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chong, for the quick introduction. Before I start the presentation, first, I wish all the ladies a happy Women's Day in Vietnam, particularly. Okay, and also thank you, the SBG, for organizing the webinar this morning. Can we move to the next slide, please? Next, let me start by showing the audience the forecast of the Southeast Asia region. Now we're in the month of October, entering into the last quarter of the year. So I will not elaborate more what will happen this year for all these countries. Rather, I will jump into the next year forecast. Overall, Asia Development Bank, ADB, have forecast countries like Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Vietnam will have the significant GDP growth in the 2022 when the economy recover. In fact, these countries have suffered the negative GDP back in 2020. Vietnam will continue to be outperformed among the Asian countries as we expect the manufacturing export continue to grow. But we also must be careful and aware that the inflation rate will be up as the domestic demand and spending power increase. ADB have forecast inflation for the Vietnam will be up to 3.5% in 2022, but which is still well controlled below the 4.0%. Next, please. We have extracted some data from the MPI. MPI Vietnam have published data recently during the first 9 months FDI attraction. What we can see here, despite the Vietnam has suspended the international border entries since last year, but there's still substantial new FDI inflow, mostly come from the industry and the service sector. I would like to highlight here $6.4 billion of the additional capital registered is indeed still comparable to what we have seen back in 2019, which is before the pandemic time. This still shows that the FDI is very confident and choose Vietnam as one of their core production base. The table is also lists up some notable expansion project in Binh Duong province. Pandemic have also bring some opportunity to the enterprises due to the increasing the consumer demand and economy recovering back in the US and Europe market. This make the enterprise to speed up their expansion plan. Next, please. Look at this chart showing the revenue for the Nike.com orders by month in 2018 to 2019. If you look carefully in this chart, you can see that from October to January is actually a peak season for the consumer market, and it almost formed up 1/3 of the total annual revenue. That's why you can see why recently shoe manufacturers are making the headline saying that they want to move out of production from the Vietnam due to these social distancing measures and factory shutdown. For the past 4 months, 80% of the Nike factory have forced to shut down. There's a reason why Nike have to shift some of their production to China. Vietnam is reopening now, but in short term, we must still facing the shortage of workers. But things will at least prolong for a little bit longer as to meet this festive season demand. But definitely in long run, advantage of tariff in Vietnam and the competitive labor cost is still favor for them to stay on in Vietnam. Next, please. I'll move on to look at the industrial transformation and planning in the southern Vietnam. If you look at the current Ho Chi Minh City population density, it have actually achieved 4,500 per square meter, which is higher than the Shanghai city. And based on our data, Ho Chi Minh City is still receiving 200,000 to 400,000 people that migrate from other provinces every year. Therefore, it's important for the greater Ho Chi Minh City to have the proper master plan and increase, of course, the housing capacities. Moving into the next 10 to 20 years, we will still foresee the industrialization continue to grow at this greater Ho Chi Minh area. Ho Chi Minh will serve and convert into the financial hub and service center. Population, especially for the labor force, will also move nearer to their workplace. More and more satellite cities were created to serve these communities. Looking at the slide, you will see some of the provinces like Binh Duong and Dong Nai will also move into the industrial revolution. Enterprises at this area will need to more supporting industries, high-tech industries, warehouse, and skilled workers to improve their production efficiencies. Next, please. We're also seeing government disperse more capital to improve the country infrastructures, especially at the Vietnam. I put an example, when the Binh Luc Long Thanh Highway completed in the next 1 or 2 years, we will see the big advantage for the logistic connectivity between the eastern and western city. With this connectivity, we also hope that to maximize the utilization of the Khai Mep port, avoiding the port congestion as what we are experiencing now in the Cut Line. Of course, government effort is also to create more railway link and highway between the southern and northern city. This helped to improve the industrialization process towards the Mekong Delta area with a potential labor force of 10 million. Next, please. I'll move into detail to look at another slide for the industrial transformation in Vietnam. Labor-intensive industries will need to make the necessary adjustment to their production models. Take example, company like Baoyuan, they are having 56,000 workers in Ho Chi Minh City, needed more technology and automation, diversify their sourcing, reduce rely of the raw material from China. High labor costs may also cause them to shift their production to the low-cost area. More and more companies started to apply more digital technologies and automation into their production. Of course, when the industrialization become more mature, we will see big manufacturers turn into the R&D driven concept. For example, TTI, they will set up their R&D center at the Saigon High-Tech Park, which will help to grow the local expertise and also enhance the supply chain capacity and efficiencies. This transformation have actually started a few years ago and mainly focused on the big FDI companies. Meanwhile, we also start to see channeling effect for the company to set up their production base at different provinces in Vietnam. Moving forward, we can see more and more Vietnam +1 or Vietnam +2. Next, please. For logistic business, we can see that Vietnam is also experiencing the phase transformation. Many 3PL logistics have set up their service capability and provide one-stop solution to their business instead of let out the warehouse space. Most of the logistic company in Ho Chi Minh City are in the stage of the logistic hub 3.0, mainly serving for the export-oriented business. With the increasing of the domestic demand and online spending, we will see logistic company collaborate with the real estate to maximize their capability and move into more advanced stages, providing the integrated logistics service like fulfillment and omni-channel platform. Next, please. Of course, what we will expect the growth in the medium and the long term. To summarize, short term, we are still seeing enterprise facing the difficulty to start their operation with the full capacity due to the unclear SOP and also shortage of labor. But this can be overcome within the 1-2 months as the worker will be coming back as they need money before the Tet holiday. To summarize, we can see bright spot amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Penetration of the digital platform during the pandemic time also will help to grow the spending power and recovery of the domestic demand. Next, please. I would like to further elaborate what will happen to the post-pandemic effect towards the Vietnam industrial development. Number one, if you look at the industrial clustering or some may name it collaborative manufacturing will be further strengthened. In recent years in the industrial field, industrial cluster development have become the main trend. However, during the pandemic, many problems in the development of the industrial chain have been exposed. One link in the industrial chain will be affected, which will affect the development of the entire industrial chain upstream and downstream. As a response, professional industrial park and the industrial cluster that cover the upstream and the downstream of this industrial chain as much as possible have become the better choice. Control and safety of the entire industrial chain, as well as the business continuity plan, BCP, all provide the new evidence for accelerating the cluster effect. Second, is the smart manufacturing, which also will become the new infrastructures. With the continuous improvement of the communication technologies and intelligent manufacturing in recent years, intelligent manufacturing have received the various degrees of attention and advancement in the various regions. In the face of pandemic, the traditional manufacturing model have withstood a great test, and it also found a great help for the advancement of this intelligent manufacturing. In the past, the construction of an industrial park, including water, electricity, road, and drainage, which become one of the basic conditions. After this pandemic, in the long run, smart manufacturing will become a new infrastructures. Industrial parks are the mainstay, providing a more informative, technological, and intelligent basic environment for manufacturing company, which will become a key to the differentiate development of industrial park in the next step. Third, the optimization of the business environment will be further promoted, seeing at what most and even in-person service will become the major trend. In the past year, optimization of the business environment have become a keyword in the development of the industries. Among the optimization measures launched by various regions, it has become a new business environment standard at most once. After being tested by the pandemic, this service model will be further promoted and even upgraded. It has been mentioned that the strive to improve the business capability and the professional standard of the investment service team, equipped with the project with the service ambassador and a full-time nanny, and create the wireless service vanguard to provide the leaders for the enterprises. The new trend of the business environment, such as professional and precise non-face-to-face service, such as office, agency, and high-quality service to promote the project, negotiation, and implementation. Lastly, smart investment promotion will be further evaluated and improved. Under the influence of pandemic, how can the industrial park continue to attract investment? The answer given is to vigorously promote online investment promotion, organize online promotion activities such as conference, online job fairs to ensure the continuous investment promotion chain. In fact, in the past few years, this online investment promotion has gradually become the important link in the investment promotion, but it has not received the sufficient attention and support. After this pandemic, it can be expected that building a smart investment platform will become a new basic method for the investment promotion. And this kind of smart investment platform mainly will include two aspects. On the one hand, it should include intelligent systems such as crowd investment and crowd recruitment. Secondly, we will establish a process-based investment attraction mechanism, real-time tracking, dynamic management, and increase the contract rate, operating rate, and even the availability rate of the project and so on. Next, please. Last, we shall look at the opportunity outlook in the Vietnam industrial market. Definitely, the biggest attraction for Vietnam is the enterprise that will take advantage of the Vietnam low tariff and develop export-oriented investment in Europe and the United States. I give an example what kind of tax is import tax that we are imposed in Vietnam and imposed from China to US. China to US for the footwear is about 8 to 25%, while in Vietnam is about 3.3 to 8%. Number two, existing industrial chain of the China and the Vietnam are highly complementary, and the company investing in the Vietnam should focus on the integrity of this industrial chain and digital advantage. Vietnam manufacturing industry is concentrated in the downstream processing or assembly, mainly in the textile, electronic, machinery. But the middle and the upper reaches have obviously shortcoming and rely on the import. We should not forget about the digital economy, which we have the high potential in the Vietnam, but its domestic supply capacity is insufficient. Overseas enterprises may consider to joint venture with the Vietnam company to develop the local digital market, explore the opportunity for the digital consumption, financial technology, and industrial digitalization. Lastly, I would like to emphasize again, high-level bilateral free trade and the investment agreement will help to reduce the risk of the investment in Vietnam and also provide the convenient service for the company investing in Vietnam. Okay, I will move on to talk about some of our information about our industrial park project in Binzeng. Let me start to give a quick introduction about the Fraser Property Vietnam. Next, please. Fraser Property Vietnam have actually started our footprint back in 1995 with construction of a Minh Point office tower. Then in 2009, we opened our first service apartment in Vietnam, which is Fraser Suite in Hanoi. In 2013, we have launched our second one in Ho Chi Minh City, which is a Cabaret by Fraser. Only until 2018, we launched first mixed-use development in Vietnam. We call it Q2000, which including the high-rise luxury apartment, office tower, and retail podium. Back in 2020, last year, we repositioned the Minh Point Tower to be the Grade A office in CBD. This year, we expanded our portfolio to industrial asset. Next, please. This is an overview of our Binzeng Industrial Park. The vision is to transform this piece of the Golden Land into the supporting industrial hub, as what you can see here in the perspective slide. We will zone it into the three main clusters: logistic hub, clean and light industries. Of course, we also hope that we can attract some of the R&D and the high-tech industries. Next. The project target to develop more than 300,000 of the green certified industrial facilities. We are proud to announce that we actually successfully entered into the build-to-suit agreement with our tenant to commit 60% of our phase 1 industrial facility. Development will be ready and hand over to tenant by second quarter of next year. Remaining space is ready to offer to the market. Next, please. We also target to start our warehouse construction in early 2022. Phase 1 of the 35,000 square meters of the warehouses is ready to launch to the market as well. Okay, next, please. Okay, that's all I would like to share today. Thank you very much. I would like to hand over back to the host.
Thank you very much, Chee Kiong. Those great comments and insights. I know logistically the team will have to spend about 30 seconds or a minute to sort of switch slides a bit. So in the meantime, Chee Kiong, I hope you don't mind just me elaborating on one or two things. Of course, you've talked about smart manufacturing, IR 4.0, automation, and this is all totally aligned with government's vision, totally aligned with the companies themselves. But do you sense and feel whether we have the right skilled workers, skilled workforce, service providers to actually deliver and implement things like use of automation or robotics or smart manufacturing?
In fact, what you have, I think your question is very, very good. In fact, what you can see that just like what I mentioned in my slide, there's a few FDI companies like Samsung, like TTI, they have actually set up the R&D center. This is one of the good moves for this enterprise to improve and upgrade the skills of our local graduates from the universities, from the middle level kind of the staff. I think it is a good move. Of course, looking at for the next, I would say for the next 5 to 10 years, we will see the skill of the worker will be further upgraded. Then we can see the more and more automation technology will be coming in to be applied in the manufacturing as well. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And now I'd like to hand over to Mr. Lam of RSM for his presentation. Although at the same time, I do note that there are a couple of interesting questions in the chat box. So I'll ask the gentleman to take a look at that as well, okay? And because we can talk about it after the next presentation. So Mr. Lam, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chung. The first thing I also want to say the best wishes to all women for the Vietnamese Women Day today. My presentation will be focused on the tax incentive for foreign investor amidst COVID-19. Next, please. I will focus on the 4 topic today. I have 1 slide about economic growth focus for this year. I have few slides talking about tax incentive for foreign investor. I have 4 slides, I think, talking about support policy for enterprises affected by COVID-19. And I have 2 slides discussing about tax concern for foreign investor. Next, please. Okay. Okay, I will have 1 slide talking about economic growth focus this year. Next, please. You all know that for the first 5 months this year, the GDP growth in Vietnam is going quite well. I think it's around more than 6%. Then from June up to September, we all know the situation of lockdown, the GDP significant drop. But the Vietnamese government, they switched the policy so quickly after study what happening in the region around the world. So they opened very quickly the economy starting from October. So I just gathering the focus from a number of organizations, including Ministry of Planning and Investment in the first 2 weeks of this month. So you can see that from beginning of October, I get the information from ADB, Standard Chartered, World Bank, MPI, and IMF, and you can see that the focus for the whole year ran between 2.5 to very close to 4%. Of course, the positive growth in the first 5 months this year helping the growth trend for the whole year going up. And if you remember last year, 2020, China, Vietnam, and Taiwan in the top 3 countries, they have the positive growth in Vietnam. With more than 4 months lockdown, the situation this year still okay. And we will see what happened from the last quarter in Vietnam. Okay, next please. Now I will talking about tax incentive for foreign investor. Next please. In summary, you can see that the tax incentive in Vietnam can be categorized into the three groups. The first one is the tax incentive based on industry. So I call that industry-based tax incentive. The second group is tax incentives based on location. And the last one just recently introduced in the law on investment in Vietnam, and you know that there's also have a very new Prime Minister decision 29 just issued beginning of this month, talking about more incentive for large scale investment in Vietnam. So I will quickly go to 3 of them. For industries-based incentives, or sometimes we call that the sector-based incentives, the incentives will be available for high-tech enterprise investment projects applying high-tech, including science research, biotech, material tech, green energy. They also available for infrastructure development. And the industrial-based incentives also available for agriculture, high-quality steel manufacturing, energy-saving products, and software production. And the incentive also available for socialized industries like education, vocational training, healthcare, culture, sport, environment, and judicial assessment. The second type of tax incentives is based on location, and I think many of us already aware that the incentives will be available for the area with difficult or extremely difficult socio-economic condition and some special purpose zone, including economic zone, high-tech zone, and industrial zone. Large-scale investment usually available for investment project in the field of manufacturing, certifying condition of minimal minimum investment capital, headcount employee, and average revenue when the project come into stable operation. In the new Prime Minister decision early this month, they also provide tax incentive for specific investment projects in relation to National Innovation Center, R&D Center, and investment projects with the capital from 30 trillion dong. Next, please. And like Mr. Chong just mentioned, you know that Samsung, Apple, and quite big techs, they are planning to build the R&D center in Vietnam. So when talking about the tax incentive, of course, in my slide, this time I focus on corporate tax, and you can see that when talking about tax incentive, usually we're talking about two things. The first one is preferential reduce CIT rates, and the second one is CIT exemption and reduction. So currently, Vietnam, they have the number of CIT reduce rates. In my slide, you can see that Vietnam has 7% and 9%. That's just the newly introduced by the Prime Minister decision earlier this month, the 7 and 9%. And another reduced rates will be 10%, 15%, 17%. Of course, the standard corporate tax rates in Vietnam is 20%, and I think we all know that. Usually, tax incentive, apart from the reduced rates, you also can able to get the tax exemption and 50% of tax reduction for the number of years. Two popular scheme that you may heard is the 2-year tax exemption and 4-year 50% tax reduction, and the maximum scheme that you also may heard that 4-year tax exemption and 9-year 50% tax reduction. So next, please. In this slide, I just provide you a summary of the 3 groups of investment projects that usually they get a very good tax incentive in Vietnam. So for the first group, you can see that the project in difficult locations specified by government, and investment project in high-tech, biotech, specific supporting industry, important infrastructure projects, social life project in education, sporting, and healthcare, large manufacturing project with the investment capital about 6,000 billion, number of labor from 3,000 people or more, and capital from 12 billion, and also including in first group of this slide, it include the project of manufacturing or processing agriculture product in difficult location, software production, environment protection. So for the first group in this slide, usually they can enjoy the reduced or preferential tax rate of 10% for 15 years, or certain project like social project in education and healthcare, they may enjoy 10% for the whole life of the project. And usually for the first group of the investment project I list down, they can be entitled to 4-year tax exemption and 5 to 9 years of 50% tax reduction. The second group of investment project, they often enjoy the tax incentives, including the project in difficult location, manufacturing of agriculture, machinery and equipment, high quality steel. So for this type of project, they can enjoy the tax rate of 17% for 10 years. They can enjoy the 2-year tax holiday, and for 4-year 50% of tax reduction. Agriculture businesses, that's applicable to entity manufacturing or processing agriculture products, they can enjoy the reduced tax rates for 15% for the whole life of the project. And the last one is the group of investment project located in industrial zone. Of course, they accept some industrial zone located in areas having favorable socio-economic condition. Usually, if you are in industrial zone in the urban city of the major, in the urban district of the major city like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, then tax incentive not available. But big farm or outside Ho Chi Minh City, then usually industrial zone tax incentive can be 2 years of CIT exemption and 4 years of 50% CIT reduction. Actually, tax incentive is more than that, but I just give an example of 4 group of investment project that usually you can easily get the tax incentive in Vietnam. So next, please. Okay, apart from that, I also want to mention about the import duty exemption and exemption or reduction of land rental, land use tax in Vietnam. For import duty exemption, you can see that on the left side, machinery equipment that cannot be produced in Vietnam for implementing encouraged project can be enjoyed as materials, supply, and component imported for production of exported goods also get the import duty exemption. Goods temporarily imported and exported for the purpose of warranty, repair, and replacement in Vietnam also enjoy import duty exemption. For land rental exemption or reduction is will available for investment project that located in location in area with a extremely difficult socio-economic condition, and also project in the list of investment encouragement sector law on investment. Okay, next please. In this slide, I just zoom in on the tax incentive for project in the industrial zone. So you know that if you don't choose the tax incentive based on the industrial pay incentive or the large scale investment, then you still can also choose the tax incentive based on location. So talking about the industrial zone, the tax incentive also available to them. Of course, the industrial zone entitled to tax incentive now, they not allow for the urban district in the big city like Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi, or some very big city, cities surrounding Ho Chi Minh City. The area a bit far more still have more tax incentives. So the tax incentive for industrial zone, you can see on the right side that reduced rate is not available, but if you choose location-based tax incentive, then 2-year tax holiday is still available, and 4-year of 50% tax still available. Land rentals exemption also available up to 7 years. Of course, tax incentive is a complicated area. You need to study the law. You need to understand that and get confirmation from tax authorities. Next, please. Now I move to the some support policy for enterprises affected by COVID-19. Next, please. I want to mention some good one, some supporting policy the government and also Ho Chi Minh City already issued from April up to now. So the first one I want to mention about the Decree 52 that take effective for 19 April and applicable for the whole year this year. That's government decree. They agree the tax payment deferral for VAT, CIT, PIT, and land rental from 3 to 5 months. You know that recently the Ministry of Finance also submitting the proposal to provide VAT exemption, 30% VAT exemption, and also the 50% VAT exemption for this year, and also the 30% corporate tax exemption for this year, and that's awaiting the approval. The middle column, I want to mention about the ruling, or we call that official letter to Eurofinance from General Confederation of Labor. They agree for a union fee payment deferral for many months until the end of this December. Of course, that deferral only applicable to enterprises having at least 50% of total social insurance participants who are temporarily under suspension. The column on the right side, I want to talking about the resolution 68. This one, they agree to reduce the social insurance contribution for labor accident and occupational disease to 0 rates, and that reduction will be applicable for 12 months until June next year. They also agree to, in this resolution, they also agree to suspend social insurance contribution for retirement and survival SIPS fund. This resolution also provides interest-free loan to employer who pay salary during suspension and recovery periods. They also providing financial support for job retention training to the qualified employer, and the amount up to 1.5 million per employee. They also this resolution also provides one-off financial support to employee job suspension, unpaid leave, contract termination. The amount is not big. I see the in the resolution they provide the financial support from 1.5 to 3 million per employee, but I think for the worker, the low salary worker, that's also good for them during the pandemic. Next, please. Okay, I also want to mention about the one ruling from Ho Chi Minh Tax Department. That's ruling 677. They agree that all taxpayer, if they are located in the isolated area under the mandatory quarantine, they will be all exempted from tax administrative penalties in case of late tax declaration and payment. I also want the middle column, I want to mention about the resolution 97. It's agreed that the electric bill reduction for individual and a number of specific sector. I think the electric bill reduction will be applicable for August, September, and it depends on the recovery situation. It can be expanded to the end of the year. Resolution 105 is the one of the supporting policy I want to mention. Of course, there are one more important policy for the 50% VAT reduction and 30% corporate tax waiting for approval. But I want to talking about the resolution 105. That's resolution. The government aim to support more than 1 million businesses affected by COVID-19. They will provide more policy and stated fee extension, exemption, or reduction together with the other policy to supporting employer and employee affected by COVID-19. Next, please. So I want to highlight, because that's the one of the latest ones, so I want to highlight few important points in this resolution 105. The first one is COVID-19 prevention measure. This resolution requires Ministry of Health provide guidance on purchasing medical products and testing equipment, and they also provide require Ministry of Health provide more guidance on self-testing and recognition of self-testing results. This resolution also require they also provide instruction to the city and provinces on the condition for the employer worker to return to the big city to work. For the cost-cutting cash flow support, this resolution also require cities and provinces by on their budget and social fund contribution to consider supporting a part of full testing expenses for the business affected by COVID-19. This resolution also requires General Confederation of Labor to consider trade union membership fee waiving and reduce the union fee. They also require Ministry of Labor, Invalids and Social Affairs, we call that MOLISA, to propose reduction of compulsory insurance exemption of the social insurance late payment penalty for last year and this year. They require Ministry of Finance to propose further procedure for quick custom clearance, and also they require Ministry of Finance to propose the tax payment extension for the social consumption tax on the domestic manufacturers' cash. And one of the good things that they also require own authority to suspend own unnecessary orders this year. Of course, I think for some entity, they had the big profit this year, like the bank, express delivery, they still want to audit them, but most of the orders will be delayed until next year. Next please. One of the important point in Resolution 105, I want to mention here that the government require Ministry of Health to provide more procedure for self-medical surveillance then all of the city and provincial authority can apply consistently for labor coming back to work from September onwards. They also require the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to accelerate negotiation with the other country for mutual recognition of vaccine passport in order to open the economy, and the Vietnamese people can travel to the other countries starting from beginning of next year. They also require Ministry of Labor, Invalid and Social Affairs to instruct the local authority to ease relaxing regulation and condition for on the issue and extension and certification of the work permit for foreign investor working in Vietnam, and also for foreign worker to come in Vietnam. So we can expect that procedure for work permit will be more easier in the coming months. Next please. So I move to the last two slides talking about the tax concern from foreign investor. And next please. The first one I want to talking about the corporate tax implication. I divided into two parts, the onshore and offshore. So you can see that for the owner investor, because of COVID-19, I know that some of the group or parent company, they want to do restructuring, so be aware of the tax implication on the capital transfer. You also need to know whether the when the company have the dividend. We hope that some companies still have the dividend this year. If you want to transfer the dividend profit overseas, you may need to know whether they subject to tax or not. And if the HQ, the owner, the foreign owner, you have any actual strategy or structuring plan, you may need to be aware of tax implication. For the foreign lenders, if you let's say if the company have any foreign loan, you may need to be aware of the withholding tax on the loan interest in Vietnam. And if the loan provided by the shareholder, by the parent company, then the transaction can be treated as related party transaction and subject to transfer pricing law in Vietnam. Very important that recently there are quite a number of rulings say that if you borrow the loan from amounting or equivalent more than from 25% or more if compared to the contributed capital, then such loan, if you borrow from commercial bank, is also considered that related party transaction. And you know that loan interest in the related party transaction will be capped by 30% of EBITDA in Vietnam. The third one on the left side, I want to talking about the for foreign supply or foreign client. If subsidiary in Vietnam, you have buying some services or goods from foreign supplier, foreign client, and be aware that Vietnam have the withholding tax on that. Double tax treaty can be applied. Of course, you need to satisfy the number of conditions to apply the double tax treaty on Vietnam. And if the transaction is provided by parent company, sister or related party company, then transfer pricing reporting need to be aware of. And the last one, withholding tax in Vietnam, they have two components, VAT and corporate tax. So apart from corporate tax you have to pay, be aware that withholding tax in Vietnam, they also have the VAT portion as well. And VAT portion, you cannot apply the double tax treaty on that. On the onshore, let's say inside Vietnam, for the entity operating in Vietnam, you need to be, I think, and there are two major taxes in Vietnam, VAT and CAT. You need to know what the applicable rates. It can be increased, it can be reduced. Local tax compliance requirement, because the new law of tax administration in Vietnam took effective from last year. There are quite a number of new reporting requirements. You also need to be aware of the how VAT input can be credited, how expense will be deductible in Vietnam. Transfer pricing requirement is one of the hot topics in Vietnam. Tax audit and tax appeal. Of course, most of the tax audit will be delayed to next year, but you also need to prepare for that for next year. For the transaction with the local supplier and client, be aware of any transaction expose your entity in Vietnam to be related party, and if that's the case, you need to follow the transfer pricing requirement. Next, please. Okay, I move to the end of my slide. In the previous slide, I'm talking about the corporate tax implication. In this one, I'm talking about the personal income tax implication. So if the investor, if I'm talking about the left side first, if the investor is individual owner, individual shareholder, be aware of personal income tax on the capital transfer. You know that for corporate tax, capital transfer will subject to 20% on capital gain, but for capital for the transfer from the individual investor or shareholder, there are number of tax rate to be applicable: 20% for the LLC, 0.1%, 20% for the LLC on the capital gain, and 0.1% on the selling price for the joint stock company. The dividend from subsidiary in Vietnam paid to individual shareholder or individual member in the foreign country will subject to 5% personal income tax in Vietnam. Remember in the previous slide, you see that the dividend of the profit remittance from subsidiary to the corporate shareholder will not subject to tax in Vietnam, but if the dividend remitted to individual shareholder, it will be subject to 5% tax in Vietnam. Actual strategy and restructuring plan, you also need to understand the tax implication on that. For expat employee, I think one of the important thing you need to know that the PIT system, personal income tax system Vietnam, they tax on the residency status. For example, for employment income, if you are non-tax resident, you will subject to 20% flat rate. But if you are tax resident, you need to pay tax on worldwide income and using progressive tax rate from 5 to 35%. The PIT in Vietnam usually required to be withheld by the employer. If you are non-tax resident, double tax treaty can help you to exempt tax in Vietnam. Of course, there will be a number of conditions to be met. On the local transaction, I want to talking about the tax implication on local employee. You need to be aware of the local tax and labor compliance requirement. It's become more and more complicated now. There's quite a number of tax registration requirement for employee, dependent, how you want to, let's say if you want to add more dependent into your family reduction, or you want to remove them, then that will be procedure for registration procedure for that. PIT withholding, I already mentioned, quite similar to expat and local. They require the PIT to be withheld for employment income at source. And if you have employment income, you work until the end of the year, there will be the PIT finalization. The tax authority, usually they refer the employer to be the one to doing that. Of course, you also can do a self-declaration, but the common referral employer will do that. When the company is paying income to the business individual or household partner, now you may know that the Ministry of Finance issued the circular 40. Of course, they already delayed until next year, but that circular 40 require VAT and PIT withholding when you make a payment to business individual. And you know that now there are some rules that the local bank and the payment service provider, they need to provide information to tax authority for the if you have the transaction on the e-commerce platform and you buying things from foreign supplier. So tax authority now, they have the right to collect the information, and they also have the right to asking the local bank and payment service provider to withhold the tax on their behalf to and pay tax to the authority. So okay, that's the end of my slide. Within 25 minutes, I try to cover a very complicated issue with a few slides.
Thank you all very much. Thank you to our audience for participating, and of course, our sponsors and supporters. And once again, happy Vietnamese Women's Day. Thank you very much.